excited to introduce Monica Bozeman, the automated language translation lead at the National Weather Service today. So just to lead into this real quick, the National Weather Service published an RFI on language translation capabilities December of last year. And as soon as we saw this RFI come in, we knew that this was going to be a really sophisticated, smart customer. To pull a couple quotes out of it, NWS was asking for ways to become more efficient with training AI/ML models. And they were asking about fine-tuning the AI/ML language translation model to output correct and consistent translations. So from the very get-go, it was clear to us that NWS understands AI. And that makes sense. You know, they do a lot of, modeling, a lot of forecasting. They're very compute-heavy people. It's central to what they do. And that's been a great dynamic. NWS has been a fabulous partner to work with over the past year. And the second thing I'll say about NWS is I will hold them out as the case study for what successful federal innovation should look like. We met them just over a year ago in March of 2022. We got started on this project with a very small amount of funding, and then over the course of the year, as we continually proved results and showed how we could help the NWS mission, NWS expanded the capability not once but twice with additional chunks of funding to go chase other projects once we integrated and proven the baseline capability. We also saw the Weather Service move with just incredible speed and flexibility to overcome some of the hurdles and implement the solution. There's always challenges to bringing on new tools, to getting user buy-in, and NWS did an absolutely fantastic job of getting around those and bringing the solution to the field very quickly. So Monica, so great to have you. Before we dive into the tactical details of the project, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Where are you from? What languages you speak, and what led you to your career at NWS?
Of course. Thanks, Bill, for the introduction and for having me today. So I have been working with the Weather Service for the past 10 years. I originally started at the National Hurricane Center for about 8 years, and then moved over to where I am now at the Office of Central Processing. And I am Spanish. I am not a fluent speaker with Spanish, but Spanish is in my family. I have a lot of Spanish relatives, so I've been around Spanish all of my life. I happen to be in the right place at the right time for this project that we're working on, and it has been a fabulous ride ever since.
Awesome, thanks, Monica. So I've really enjoyed getting to know NWS as an organization through this project. Can you tell us a little bit about what is the mission of the National Weather Service, and give us a quick high-level tour of how you guys are organized?
Sure. So the Weather Service, our main mission is protection of life and property. And so to meet that mission, we have this goal called a weather-ready nation, so that everyone across the continental US, in addition to Alaska, Hawaii, American Samoa, and Puerto Rico, know what to do when there's severe weather or critical weather happening in their areas. So the way we're organized is we have a couple of different regions across the US. And within that, there are 122 weather forecast offices that we call WFOs. And then you can treat those people kind of like your customer service for what the weather is doing today, or what you're gonna wear, how's your commute affected by the weather, and then the critical weather when that happens. Unlike if you go to an app where you can just read about what the weather's going to be today, you physically could call a weather service office and ask and get feedback from a human of what the weather is doing and how to get help. And they also engage with the community as well. In addition to the 122 offices, there's also NWS headquarters in Silver Spring, Maryland, where I work. It has a couple of different portfolios for the different ways we implement things. We have a policy program, we have a science and technology program, we have central processing where I am for the IT support, and then dissemination for getting all of our information everywhere. And then on top of those, there are 7 national centers for environmental prediction. So those are your National Hurricane Center, Storm Prediction Center, and all those well-known national centers where you would get your national level picture of weather information.
Awesome. Thanks, Monica. I've got a visual here, just pop up real quick just to show everybody. So Monica mentioned all the different weather forecast offices across the country. So every city and county in the U.S. and our, the U.S. territories, NWS is there providing timely alerts. And then I've got some of the key hubs for language translation circled from Puerto Rico all the way over to American Samoa. So Monica, Weather Service has been working to scale language translation for some time, but 2021 was a big year where we really saw the pace pick up. There's been a long-standing cards requirement since like 2016, but 2021 things took on a new sense of urgency. Can you tell us what events drove that acceleration, and then what had been some of the historical, technical, and practical challenges that prevented translating into multiple languages in the past?
Yeah, 2021 was a key year for us. In addition to the cards requirement that you mentioned, our San Juan WFO traditionally have been translating Weather Service content into Spanish manually for at least 30 years. We don't have a Weather Service requirement for bilingual forecasters, so they were losing bilingual talent. And as we added on additional responsibilities to each of our forecast offices, San Juan was asking for additional help with completing those translations of the National Hurricane Center products. So we wanted to help them because it was a critical translation that we needed to be making. And then in addition, there was a presidential interest with his agenda, and the remnants of Hurricane Ida also came through New York and caused a lot of people of Asian descent to die because of the floodwaters, only due to the remnants, not the strength of Ida when she was a tropical system. So all those things combined led to a perfect storm of interest in getting translations done. So that led to, starting our process with, we started at Google Translate. So we did a practice year for a while, get our feet wet and understand what we were getting ourselves into. How feasible could it be with implementing it into our operations, and where were the pain points to kind of figure out how can we get some additional help and where could we make improvements from there.
Awesome. So when we got started on our project last summer, the first place we went was San Juan, Puerto Rico. And I had the opportunity to go to San Juan. When you get down there, you really feel like you're on the edge of the Atlantic Ocean. You hear people talk about Maria still and all the devastation that caused. Can you paint us a quick picture of like what's it like to be in that weather forecast office at San Juan, Puerto Rico during hurricane season, and how is the software going to help make translating those reports into Spanish easier for SJU translators?
Sure. So every forecast office has a couple of different desks where a forecaster works and does their shift. San Juan is no different. However, they also, and every forecast office also does what we call decision support services, where they're talking to the community, talking to emergency managers, and they have to do all of those things during the shift. Now, San Juan also volunteers to do the translations on top of that. And the Hurricane Center does products every 6 hours, and that's a product per storm. So if you get multiple storms, you could have up to 5 storms we've seen before. And then so doing a translation for a product, they said took them about an hour per product per storm. So you just keep compounding the time required to do the translation on top of having to call the emergency managers and answer any phone calls, doing media. They get a lot of media requests over in San Juan. They do a lot of outreach, and just you can imagine how much stress that puts on a forecaster to meet all those requirements during the day in critical weather operations. So they were desperate for additional help with making translations faster. They do have a lot of bilingual talent, but it was just taking them a bit too long because they're starting from scratch, doing all of it manually. So LILT was a big help with automating some of that. And they were really encouraged seeing the difference between the Google translations, where they couldn't really change things and have to make post edits, whereas working in the LILT interface, where they had control over how the translation looked from the get-go and noticed that it would learn from them. That was a huge improvement in getting their culture to change to be resistant from automated translations or semi-automated translations to using LILT and being extremely happy with the results.
That's awesome, Monica. Can you tell us about like how long it used to take to get products out versus like the timelines that we're shooting for today?
Yeah, the delay time for the Hurricane Center products could be up to 1 to 3 hours. Now, when you have a cycle that's every 6 hours per storm, that takes a while. So having people wait up to 3 hours for critical information, especially as it's getting closer to the land, closer to making landfall, that just puts a lot of stress on the forecasters. So we were able to save them significant time. By the end of the hurricane season, we were able to get that down to about 15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes of product. So major time savings for them to get back to doing weather forecasts, which is amazing.
That's huge. And I know that it's really important to get the highest possible accuracy translation for NWS products. Can you tell us why it's so important to get the highest possible accuracy, and what kind of accuracy results did San Juan get last year?
Well, with our industry, making sure that it's accurate means someone's life or death. You want them to make sure that they are taking the appropriate action to protect their life and property during critical weather operations.
Fantastic. And then, so after we worked at San Juan, the next place we went was back to New York, where Hurricane Ida had created such devastation because of the language barrier. Can you tell the audience a little bit about what we're trying to do with the New York project, and how is this breaking new ground in a way that's never been tried by NWS before?
Definitely. So with San Juan, we actually had bilingual forecasters, which was a huge help. With New York, they do not have Spanish or Chinese staff in their office. So for us, this is completely new, very innovative, because most of our weather service offices do not have bilingual forecasters to assist. So everything is automated. We're doing, I know you Sarah showed the two options that LILT provides for tools to use for translation. We are using both of those. We have a hybrid approach. We are fully using Instant Translate in the background to translate the New York content based off of how we're customizing what we're translating. And then we also keep a queue of the translations into the translation cat tool. So that way, if we see an error, we can read it and then address it. And then by the linguists from LILT or from bilingual folks within the weather service that we've identified, they can go in and fix that so that the next translation is correct.
Awesome. And can you give us a quick overview of what languages you plan to scale to over the coming years?
Right now, we've done Spanish with San Juan. We're doing simplified Chinese with the New York office. We're also going to be kicking off with American Samoa for Samoan. And later in the fall, we'll be doing Vietnamese as well. And then for the next couple of years, we plan on doing additional languages, trying to get up to about 12 or 13 languages that we've identified have the biggest need for low English speakers. That's
awesome. So you mentioned American Samoa. I love the project we're doing out there. I'm still trying to score a site visit for training. We'll keep working on that. Can you tell us about what translation looked like at American Samoa in the past, and then what are your plans to scale translation capability there later this year?
Sure. So Samoa is a similar yet different case from San Juan. They do have bilingual Samoan speakers in American Samoa. However, the difference is, whereas San Juan has a couple of desks with a lot of people available in their office, Samoa has a single desk with one person on shift at a time to do all of the NWS responsibilities. And one thing that's special that they do is they will go out personally to talk to the tribal chiefs as their decision support services require. And they have to do the English and Samoan in an area where English is a second language. So the fact that it's one person is such a pain point for them, and they were also begging for assistance. So we're going to do a very similar setup to San Juan and have their forecasters get it set up with LILT accounts to be able to do the translations interactively to save them time as well.
It's fantastic. So over the course of the project, it's just been super fun to see the passion for different dialects of Spanish across the U.S. And like Monica, I studied Spanish and enjoy getting to use it for this project. So one of my absolute favorite calls from the past year was when we had the Miami office, which is very strong Cuban flavor of Spanish, the Brownsville office, which is a very strong Mexican flavor of Spanish, and the Puerto Rico office kind of debate various Spanish terms, and they're very passionate about it. And it can be a pretty charged issue. I was really glad to be a spectator for that meeting and not involved in the direct fire sometimes. But can you just say a word about how you are planning to set up different translation software models to reflect the need for different kinds of Spanish in different parts of the US? Like what's your model management strategy that you've come up with?
Sure. So for Puerto Rico, they have a very distinct dialect, as you mentioned. So they have their own model specifically for them. For the rest of the US, they're getting, like you said, influence from all those different types of Spanish speakers. So we're having the influence from the San Juan forecasters, and then we're having lots of meetings debating terms, and then we have a central glossary and to address how certain words won't work in certain areas. And so we've got a two-model approach. And then in addition to that, to address some of those dialects, we're developing a national level NWS website where if there's a particular word in Spanish, for example, you can hover over it with your mouse or on mobile, and it'll give a definition of how we're using the word, and then alternate words from the other dialects. So that way we can address it there and be confined to only 2 LILT models just to help with ease of model maintenance. You don't want too many models flying around and having to deal with all of those.
No, I think it's great. And I'm super excited about the project to have a universal Spanish model that's understandable by the broadest possible segment of the population. I think it's a really great project that other agencies might get value out of.
That's the goal.
Yeah. So we're coming short on time here, but just to close, could you say a quick word about the humanitarian impact that we expect to have through this project? It was awesome to be working with you guys through Fiona and Ian and all the big storms last year, and to feel like we were kind of playing a small part in that. But could you just say a word about the humanitarian impact that we expect this project to have?
So we've analyzed the 2019 census data. We wanted a pre-COVID look at the US Census. And actually, we found out that for low English proficiency speakers, and these are just the people that responded to the census, is 25 million people. And that's 25 million people that may not know what to do during a tornado. Tornadoes are inherently a US weather phenomena. And they may not know what to do because we have not been able to sufficiently reach them because they don't understand English. We don't want people to die in the floodwaters of the remnants of any tropical system. So the fact that that number is so large, we're hoping we can help that many people as we continue to expand the project to additional languages. Because 25 million people is just a remarkable number, and we'd like to try and help every one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the most impactful moments of the project was when the NWS director shook my hand and said, "This is going to save lives."
Exactly.
That was awesome. So Monica, there's a question here that I think might be directed at you. We've still got 1 or 2 minutes before our UK counterparts take the stage here. So this question is about when you use human review or not. So can you give us a sense of like when you're planning to have human review over the disseminated products versus in which cases you won't?
Yeah, so in real-time operations to get things out the door at the fastest pace possible, we won't. We'll do a post-human review. For the San Juan office and the American Samoa office, those will both be human review from the get-go because they have the speakers available. So that way we do implement that hybrid approach. And then we have an email functionality where we can see how the translation is done. And if we notice anything that we're not happy with, we'll go in and say, assign the translation to one of our bilingual people or contact you and see if we can get one of your linguists to go into the model and help with training to train out any errors or things we don't like.
Perfect. Monica, thank you so much for being here. It's been so much fun working on this project with you. Really enjoyed it, and so grateful for everything you're doing for the country with this. Thank you so much.